David Reynolds sat at the kitchen table, absent-mindedly stirring his coffee as he stared at his phone screen. His wife, Laura, had just left for work, the faint scent of her vanilla perfume still lingering in the air. They had been married for 8 years, and while things weren't perfect, he had always believed they were solid. Lately, however, something felt off. It had started with small things that, on their own, didn't seem significant but together painted a different picture. Laura had never been one to keep secrets, yet over the past few months, she had become more guarded with her phone. She had always left it lying around, charging on the counter or sitting beside her on the couch. Now, she carried it everywhere, even to the bathroom, even in the middle of the night. David shook his head, trying to dismiss the nagging feeling in his gut. He trusted Laura. They had built a life together, shared laughter, dreams, and hardships. But trust had its limits, and lately, his instincts were screaming at him. His thoughts drifted back to the conversation they had a few nights ago. "Who keeps texting you so late?" he had asked, trying to sound casual. Laura barely glanced up from her phone. "Oh, it's just a friend from work. Nothing important. Just a friend." David had wanted to press further, but something in her tone made him hesitate. It wasn't the words themselves, it was the way she said them. Too quick, too dismissive, and the way she angled her phone away from him, as if shielding the screen from his view. Still, he had let it go. He didn't want to be the jealous husband who overanalyzed everything. But doubts had a way of growing, feeding on the smallest of details. That weekend, David and Laura went to a friend's birthday party. As the night wore on, he noticed Laura stepping away several times, phone in hand, her face illuminated by the glow of the screen. When he finally caught a glimpse, he saw a name he didn't recognize. Chris. "Who's Chris?" he had asked on the drive home. Laura had laughed, almost too lightly. "Oh, he's just a friend from the office. We started working on a project together. Just a friend." Again, David wanted to believe her. But as the weeks went on, her behavior only grew more suspicious. She started coming home later, claiming work kept her busy. She laughed at messages she never shared. And then there was the biggest change. She stopped initiating intimacy. For the first time in their marriage, David felt like an outsider looking in. One evening, as Laura showered, David sat on the couch, pretending to watch TV. Her phone lay on the coffee table, screen facing down. He stared at it, debating. He had never invaded her privacy before. But a voice in his head whispered, "If there's nothing to hide, why is she hiding it?" His heart pounded as he reached for the phone. Wrong passcode. His stomach clenched. Laura had never locked her phone before. She was hiding something. Before he could process the weight of that realization, he heard the shower turn off. Panic surged through him, and he quickly placed the phone back as it was. She walked into the room, towel wrapped around her body, smiling as if nothing had changed. But David knew better. Something had changed, and he was going to find out what. David's mind refused to rest. That night, as Laura lay beside him, scrolling through her phone with her back turned, he stared at the ceiling, thoughts racing. Chris. The name had lodged itself in his mind, an unwelcome guest that refused to leave. He needed answers, and he needed proof. The next morning, while Laura was in the shower, David picked up her phone again. This time, instead of trying to guess the passcode, he waited. The moment she stepped out of the bathroom and reached for her makeup, he said, "Hey, can I borrow your phone? Mine's acting up." A simple request, but the way her body tensed told him everything. Sure, just give me a second. Let me check something first." She grabbed the phone before he could, quickly typing something in before handing it over. David glanced at the screen. Her messages app was clear. Too clear. She had just deleted something. "Never mind," he said, handing it back, masking his anger with a forced smile. She let out a relieved breath. David clenched his fists. That day, he called in sick to work. If Laura was hiding something, he needed to find out what. Using his laptop, he began searching for ways to recover deleted messages. Hours passed as he scoured forums and tech guides. Finally, he found something useful, a phone backup retrieval method. If he could access her cloud backup, he could see what she had erased. He needed her login. And he had an idea. That night, as they sat watching TV, David casually said, "Hey, I forgot my Netflix password. What's yours again?" Laura rolled her eyes, laughing. "You always forget it." She typed it into his phone. David watched carefully. She used the same password she had used before. A habit. a habit he could use. The next morning, after Laura left for work, David sat down with his laptop and took a deep breath. He tried the password on her cloud account. First attempt, incorrect. Second attempt, incorrect. He adjusted the capitalization slightly and tried again. Success. His stomach dropped as he scrolled through her stored backups. He clicked on messages. Then he saw it. Chris. Hundreds of texts. David's hands trembled as he read. Chris wasn't just a friend from work. He was something more. Something dangerous. Chris, can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. Laura, I know. I can't stop thinking about it. Chris, does he suspect anything? Laura, no. He's so trusting. He has no idea. David's breath hitched. His world blurred. There were photos too. Pictures of Laura, smiling at the camera, wearing outfits David had never seen. And then a selfie of Chris and Laura together in bed. David slammed the laptop shut. His heart pounded in his ears. His wife, was having an affair. She had lied to his face. She had made a fool of him. A mixture of rage and devastation crashed over him. But instead of confronting her immediately, he inhaled sharply, forcing himself to think. He needed a plan. That evening, David acted normal. He kissed Laura when she came home. He asked about her day. He even laughed at her jokes. Inside, he was burning. He needed more. More proof. More leverage. That's when an idea struck him. David contacted an old friend, Ethan, a private investigator. I need proof, David said. Real proof. Can you help? Ethan agreed. For the next week, David played his role perfectly. Loving husband. Trusting partner. All while Ethan tracked Laura's every move. And the results? Worse than David imagined. Laura wasn't just meeting Chris for drinks. She was spending nights at his apartment. She had called in sick to work to be with him. She had made David the fool. And David was done playing the fool. David had all the proof he needed. Text messages. Photos. Videos from Ethan showing Laura entering and leaving Chris's apartment at odd hours. The betrayal burned like acid in his veins, but he didn't let it consume him. Not yet. Instead, he planned. Laura thought she was smart. Thought she had erased all the evidence. She had no idea what was coming. It was Friday night. The perfect night. David had arranged everything. He invited a few close friends over for dinner. People Laura respected. People whose opinions mattered to her. And then he invited Chris. Through an anonymous number, he sent a simple text. Laura's husband is out of town. Meet her at our place at 8 p.m. She's waiting for you. Chris didn't hesitate. He took the bait. At 7:45 p.m., Laura was in the kitchen, setting the table, oblivious. At 7:50 p.m., their friends arrived, chatting, laughing, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. And at exactly 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. David opened the door, and there stood Chris, holding a bottle of wine, smiling, thinking he was about to walk into Laura's arms. But instead, he walked straight into hell. Laura's face turned ghostly pale the moment she saw him. See, Chris, she stammered, eyes darting between him and David. The room fell silent. David folded his arms. You look surprised, honey. Chris looked confused. Then realization dawned. His face drained of color. David took out his phone, tapped the screen, and projected the messages, photos, and videos onto the TV. The entire room gasped. Laura's deleted messages. Chris and Laura's photos in bed together. Videos of her sneaking into Chris's apartment. Everything. Laura's friends looked at her in shock. Judgment. Disgust. Betrayal. She took a step forward, shaking her head. David, I can explain. He held up a hand. Don't. Just don't. She was done lying. Chris mumbled something, turning to leave, but David wasn't finished. No. You stay. Chris froze. You two deserve to face this together. David turned to Laura, his voice calm, but laced with venom. You lied to me. You betrayed me. You made me feel crazy for suspecting the truth. And now, everyone here knows exactly who you are. Laura was trembling. Tears welled in her eyes. David, please. No. You don't get to beg. You had plenty of chances to stop this. To come clean. But instead, you insulted my intelligence and destroyed our marriage. Now, you get to live with the consequences. He turned to their guests. I'm filing for divorce. And she can go be with Chris, since that's what she wanted all along. Chris swallowed hard, shaking his head. I think there's been a mistake. David laughed coldly. No mistake, Chris. You're just as guilty. And I made sure your wife saw all of this too. Chris's face blanched. She knows. David nodded. Oh, she knows everything. In fact, she said she's calling a lawyer, too. Chris bolted for the door. Laura collapsed into a chair, sobbing. And David? David walked away. Because this wasn't his burden anymore. The confrontation had ended, but the real fallout was only beginning. As soon as David walked out of the living room, he heard Laura's desperate footsteps behind him. David, please, just talk to me. He didn't stop, didn't look back. He walked into their bedroom, pulled a suitcase from the closet, and began packing. Laura stood in the doorway, tears streaking down her face. You're really leaving? After all these years? David zipped up the suitcase. No, Laura. You left first. Her breath hitched. I made a mistake. He turned, his expression hard. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something you don't mean in an argument. Sleeping with my so-called best friend for months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Repeatedly. She had no defense. Only silent, shuddering sobs. David, I love you. He exhaled a bitter laugh. No, you don't. You love what I provided. Security. Stability. A good life. If you loved me, we wouldn't be here. Her lip trembled. Please don't throw this away. He shook his head. You already did. And with that, he grabbed his suitcase and walked past her. A week passed. David moved into a temporary apartment. The house, his house, was listed for sale. Then, the divorce papers were delivered. Laura called him within minutes. David, please. We don't have to do this so fast. Can we at least go to therapy? Work through this. He held the phone to his ear, emotionless. You weren't interested in therapy when you were sneaking around with Chris. Silence. David, I don't want to lose everything. His jaw clenched. You already did. And he hung up. David wasn't the only one making moves. Chris's wife, Megan, had gone nuclear. She kicked him out of their house, froze their joint bank accounts, took their kids, and filed for full custody. One night, David got a message from her. Thank you for showing me the truth. He's ruined, and I'll make sure he never sees our kids again. David smirked. Chris thought he had won, thought he had gotten away with it. But now he had nothing. Laura had always been the social butterfly, the one with the perfect image. But now, people whispered when she entered a room. Mutual friends distanced themselves. She lost the house. And, to make it worse, Chris abandoned her. After losing everything to his wife in the divorce, he had no interest in playing house with Laura. One day, David got a final message from her. I lost everything, David. And I know I deserve it. I just hope, one day, you can forgive me. He didn't reply, because he had already moved on. Months passed. David had finalized the divorce, signed the paperwork, and walked away from the wreckage Laura had created. The house was sold. The memories? Left behind. For the first time in years, he felt free. He had traded a life built on lies for something far better, a fresh start. And he wasn't looking back. One evening, David got an unexpected call. Laura. He almost ignored it. But curiosity won. David. Her voice was small, broken. What do you want, Laura? His tone was firm. I just wanted to say, you were right about everything. Chris used me. He never cared. Now, I have nothing. David exhaled. He had expected this. And what do you want me to do about it? She hesitated. I miss you. There it was. Desperation. Regret. You don't miss me, Laura. You miss the life I gave you. Silence. David, I know I don't deserve anything from you. But do you think we could ever? No. He cut her off, voice firm. You made your choice. And I made mine. He hung up. And this time, for good. Months later, David sat on the patio of a small cafe, enjoying a quiet morning. Life was good. He had a new place, a new job, and peace. A woman sat at the table next to him, sipping her coffee. She glanced at him and smiled. Nice day, isn't it? David smiled back. Yeah, it really is. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't angry. He had won. And Laura? She was just a chapter he had closed.